tomorrow. So first of all, we're going to talk about solving the matrix equation for x. And so in order to solve a matrix equation for x, a lot of people think you use division. You can't divide with matrices, remember? Okay, division is not allowed. So what we do is we use an inverse. So here I want to get the x all by itself. So to get the x all by itself, I'm going to multiply by the inverse of a. Now notice, in order to multiply by the inverse of a, I need to multiply that inverse right next to matrix A. And on this side, I had to multiply it on the left side of A. So since it's on the left side here, I've got to put the inverse on the left side of the other side of the equation. Okay? So on the left side, those end up canceling and I get x equals A inverse times B. Okay, so remember, it's important what side you multiply those on. So let's look at the next one. I need to solve that for x. So I've got x times A. What?
That's how you do that.
Yes, that's all you do for that one. So x times A equals B. So in order to get rid of this A, I've got to multiply by the inverse of A, and it's got to be right next to it. So since it's on the right side of the equation here, it's got to be on the right side of the equation here. Okay? So now those end up canceling and you get x to equal b times A inverse. So order is very, very important. Now on the third one, what do you think you do first? Subtract C. And remember, you can subtract with matrices. So that's okay. So then I have AX equals B minus C. What do you need to do now? Multiply by the inverse, and I'm going to put it here on the left side. Now, the question is, what do you do on the right side here? Well, I've got the inverse, but I also need to put parentheses. So those two cancel, and you have x equals A inverse times B, oops, forgot to put the little negative one, minus C. Now, what this actually represents is, if we were to put matrices in there, like any matrix for A, B, and C, we could solve that equation. It's just a little easier to look at it with just variables as opposed to actually the matrices when we get there. So now today we're going to talk about inverse matrix, using those to solve equations. And so up here on the board I have a system of two equations with two variables. A system with two equations and two variables. Now it says use an inverse matrix to solve this system. So what I'm going to expect that you do is actually show me some work. This is kind of like an essay question. Okay. So what I'm going to do, all right, is I'm going to go ahead and write a matrix just with the coefficients on the left side. Okay. So this matrix will have a 3 and a 4 in the top row. What will go in the bottom row? 1 and negative 2. Okay. And then I'm going to put another matrix here and I'm going to write an x and a y, and you're probably wondering why. Well, that's what we're trying to find. And then that's going to equal what's on the right side, in this case 2 and 4. Now what you are seeing here in purple is real similar to the first one we looked at on the previous slide. Remember, this previous slide was AX equals B? That's the same thing. A is the first matrix, X is the XY matrix, and then B is the matrix 2, 4. So from that previous page, how did we find what X was? What did we do? We used the inverse of A. Remember, we did this? Okay, so x equals A inverse times B. So what I want you to do now with your graphing calculators is I want you to go to matrix, and in matrix A, I want you to put in the 2 by 2 matrix here. So this is matrix A. Okay, matrix, remember, is the fourth button down on the left side, and it's in blue. You have to hit the second function. When you get done with that, I want you to put this in matrix B.
This is the edit, right?
What?
This is like the edit.
Yeah. So now we hit quit and go into matrix again and put in matrix B. Or do we do matrix B? Hit enter. There. Now you put in matrix B, which is 2, 4.
You get to here.
Yeah, and then you edit. Remember? You have in the first one. Change up to
Just have the first one and quit it.
So we go to matrix.
And go to edit and B, then put it in 2, 4.
Okay, so now, this is what we need to put in. In order for us to solve, we need to get this on our screen. So this is what you're going to do. Okay, you're going to go to matrix.
Matrix again.
Yes. After you get them entered in, you're going to go to names. And you're going to go to A, which looks like this. And you're going to hit enter. Okay? After you type all those in and you quit and get out, we go to matrix, names, and A. Now what we need to do is we need to get that little -1 power, right? Yep, so if you look at the matrix button that you hit in blue, hit that again and notice what it does. It does the little -1. Now what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and go matrix, names, and what are you going to hit this time?
B.
B. Okay. Matrix, names, B, hit enter. And then what do you end up getting? 2, -1. So let's see what that correlates to. What does 2 symbolize? X, because that's up here. What does Y symbolize? -1. So that is your solution. It is 2, -1. Okay, now we're going to go through this again. Okay? We're going to go through this exact same process so that we get it down.
You're supposed to quit after
Yeah. You quit and then you go into matrix. Oh, no, you got it right. Okay, this is what you do. Okay, so you do matrix, A, this, and then matrix, B. There's your 2, -1. Okay, so let's look at the next slide and go through that again. Okay? So first thing I need to do is I need to go ahead and write a matrix just with the coefficients on the left side. So what will that look like? 1, -2, 2, -3. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put my X matrix in. And so, what do you need to do now? Yep, put this in A, put this in B. Okay? So did we already get those entered in? So this is what it symbolizes. How can I find what X is? A inverse times B.
and there's your A, and you enter what I have up there on the.
How do you get the A on you?
Did you get matrix A in there?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah, I got it.
Sleep, don't hit enter.
Yeah.
Now
Oh,
do
so
you?
you don't press.
No, now do this. And then hit
Now. Okay, so what did we get our matrix to look like, folks?
5,
5, 0. Nice job. So what that tells us is that x is 5, y is 0, and that's our solution. Now on a 2 equation, okay, I mean, it's about half a dozen one way, half a dozen another as to if it's more time consuming or if it's about the same as solving this by hand. But that is another way you can solve a system of equations. Now this is what's really neat. Okay, this formula here. There is a way that matrices can be used to find the area of a triangle if you know any 3 points. It doesn't have to be a right triangle, it could be any triangle. So here are my 3 points, right here. So any 3 points, it doesn't matter where they're located. Okay, the area equals plus or minus 1/2. Why does it say plus or minus? Because sometimes the determinant will be negative. And if the determinant here is negative, I'm going to use a negative 1/2. If the determinant here is positive, I'm going to use a positive 1/2 so that my area answer is always positive. So it's really easy in this determinant because you're probably wondering, oh my gosh, look at all these things I have to write. X1, Y1. So this is the first point and then the number 1. Okay. X2, Y2. Second point, the number 1. X3, Y3. The third point and the number 1. So it's basically just a matter of row 1 is the first point, number 1. Row 2 is the second point and number 1. And row 3 is the third point and the number 1. So we're going to go ahead and look at an example. And we're going to go ahead and see if we can solve that fairly quick. So let's go ahead and look at this example. It says find the area of the triangle passing through the points 1, 3, -2, -2, 3, -1. Find the area of the triangle passing through the points 1, 3, -2, -2, and 3, -1. So,
What's the one thing? Like the X1, Y1?
just hold, that's, I know, just hold on, okay? So we've got our area here, and I know I'm going to use a plus or minus 1/2, or I could put 0.5, it doesn't matter. So then I'm going to start by writing my 3 by 3 determinant. Row 1 was what?
X1.
It was the first point, right? So the first point is 1, 3. So I'm going to write 1, 3, and then I always put the number 1. Okay. Row 2 is the second point. So in this case, -2, -2, and then the number 1. Row 3 is going to be 3, -1, and then the number 1. Now there is a way on our calculator that we can actually find this determinant without having to use, the diagonals, and we're going to look at that now. Okay, so here we go. We are going to enter that in as matrix A.
What is the next one?
So it's not, we're finding it right now.
Oh.
Okay, so I need you to enter in that matrix A. So go to matrix, go to A. Row 1 should be 1, 3, 1. Row 2 should be -2, -2, 1. And row 3 should be 3, -1, 1. So once you get that entered in, I just want you to hold on. Don't maybe advance yet. Okay? So once you get that entered in, I want you to go ahead and quit so that your screen should be back on the calculate screen. Okay? Does everybody have theirs entered in? Okay. Go to Matrix, Math, and Determinant. So go to Matrix. Up at the top, you should be able to select Math. Which one is Determinant? The first one says DET with the parentheses, so I want you to hit enter. That's going to take you back to the calculate screen. Okay. So now what I want you to do is I want you to go back to matrix, and I want you to do names, and then A. So your screen should look exactly like this when all is said and done. Your screen should look what I have highlighted in aqua. If you get that where I have highlighted in aqua, press enter. What do you get your answer to be? 22. So now if you remember, that's what the determinant is. The area is 1/2 of this. So take your answer times 0.5, and what do you get? 11. So see, that determinant is a lot easier. You can see now why I showed you how to do it by hand first. Because if I would have showed you by calculator, I could have never gotten you to do it by hand. So your assignment from this section, okay, is on page 384. There are actually two parts. The first part I want you to do on page 384 is 45 through 48, 4 problems. Then I want you to go to page 392, and I want you to do 1 through 8.